Alright guys, so my little elephant has been drying now for about a day and a half, and I'm ready to actually take the little jar here of food coloring that's holding up the little trunk, and there it is. Okay, nice and dry. There he is. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add some color to his face. This part, you know, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to, but I love adding little details with color and little shadowing around the eyes and eye glimmer, because I think it looks really, really cute. Okay, so what you're gonna do first of all is we're gonna actually give his little cheeks some color, and the inside of his trunk, as well as his little belly button and the inside of his ears. At this point, remember, I had talked to you guys about the pastel colors, the non-toxic pastel colors. You can, of course, use those. They're always my preference. And if not, then you're just welcome to use any type of, you know, luster dust or petal dust that you guys want to use, okay, as long as they're non-toxic. So what I'm going to do is take some of my tissue paper, okay, and I have my blade here, and for the cheeks, you guys can use any color you want. I like to use a bright pink because it's more noticeable against the dark gray of the elephant skin. And so I'm going to take my pastel palette here, and I'm going to choose this really bright pink, and we're not going to overdo it, so it's not really going to look this bright. Okay, so what I do is take my blade, and I'm just gonna scrape a little bit of the chalk powder onto my tissue paper, and I use tissue paper because that way I keep my surface clean, and that should be enough. So that's about all I need. Okay, then I'm going to take a kind of a wide brush that has very loose bristles. That way the powder is distributed evenly on my little elephant. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just take a little bit of the pink dust and just kind of spread it out a little bit and dab it on my tissue paper to make sure I'm not picking up too much on my brush. And I'm just going to, in a circular motion, just add a little bit of powder to his cheeks, right underneath his eye, to the left of his eye. It's pretty much like just putting on blush. Okay, you just go in a circular motion. So there's the little pink on his cheek. Okay, then I'm going to turn him over and do the same to his other little cheek. You probably can't see too good because his giant ear is blocking. This is the area right here, right underneath the eye, okay, where you're gonna add a little bit of pink. And just gently, okay, you don't want to push up so hard up against the head that you're gonna break the head off. And just, you know, look at it and make sure that you are happy with the amount of rosy cheek that you've given him, and that you have the same amount of color on both sides. Okay, now we're gonna also add a little bit of pink to the inside of his little snout at the end of his trunk. And for that, I'm gonna take, let's see, what color brush do I want? Okay, for that I'm going to take this little brush here. The bristles actually are this color, so don't think I have black color on here. Okay, that's what I was testing, but I love these brushes. These are actually Master's Touch. This is a number 6, and they're actual animal hair, so that's why the color changes on these. You can see that they're all pretty much the same. The color gets dark on the bristles. So take a little bit of your pink And we're gonna put some inside of his little trunk. And just a little bit on the outer rim. Okay, there's the pink on his nose. Really cute. All right, that's pretty much it for the pink. All right, for the little belly button, I like to use a little bit of red. So rather than scraping a bunch of red, since the belly button is so little, I'm just gonna actually take another pointy brush, big enough, you know, that I know it's gonna fit in the belly button. And I'm going to just rub it on my pastel chalk. And then I'm just gonna stick it in his belly button and just do a circular motion and then come out a little bit and rub it on the outer edge. Okay, there's his little red belly button. And then we want to add just a tiny little bit of color to the inside of his ears. And we're going to use the same brush that we used for the pink here. Okay, and then just lightly dab it on your pastel chalk. And then we're just going to brush color just on the very inside of the ear, close to his head, in just a small circular pattern. Just to add a little bit more depth and cuteness to him. You don't want to push back too hard on the ear because remember it's only glued in a very limited space. Okay, so you can see the little red inside of his ear there. You don't want to see too much of a definite line. So make sure that you kind of blend it into the ear. And then I'm going to do the same for the other ear. Trying to give you guys a good view. And it doesn't have to be perfect, you know, as long as you got a little bit of color in there, it'll look really, really cute. Okay. So there is the little reddish light tone inside of his ears. All right, so I'm gonna put my red away. Now I want to highlight his little eyebrows just a tiny little bit. So because he's a baby, I'm gonna use a very light brown. And I am going to actually put a little bit of color onto my tissue paper. That's about all I'm gonna need, very little. And I'm gonna take a fine brush, very fine little brush. Again, Master's Choice, Master's Touch brushes, my favorite. And remember the little lines that we made at the beginning for his little eyebrows? We're going to just take a little bit of brown color and dab it on your paper. So you make sure you're not picking up tons of color. You just want to make sure that you're coloring the end of the bristles. And the reason we're using a pointy fine brush is to make sure that it actually fits inside of the crease that we made for the eyebrow. And then just very carefully dust inside the eyebrow. Okay, so you can see the little dark eyebrow there. Turn it over and do the same on the other one. Okay, so there's his two little dark eyebrows. Then I am going to take another brush that has very fine bristles as well, and the end of the brush is squashed together. So it gives me a straight line, a straight edge when I'm brushing. And I want to add just a little bit of shadow around his eyes. So I'm dabbing my brush very gently. You don't want to pick up a lot of color, just very little. And be very careful to place the brush at an angle. You don't want to do this because then you're going to color too much. Just kind of squeeze it in there between the black eye and the outside of the socket. And you're just going to lightly brush around. A little bit of color, guys, on your figures makes a very, very big difference. It adds a lot of color. I should say it adds a lot of character. And I don't know, I think they look a lot cuter when you add color to them. They look more professional. Okay, so there's a little bit of brown around his little eye. And I'm going to do the same for the other eye. Okay, so there's the brown around the other eye. Okay, if you happen to get a little bit of dust on your black eyeballs, all you need to do is just take a clean brush, any clean brush, and you can just wipe off what you don't want on there. Okay, now a cool trick that a lot of people ask me a lot about is how do I make the eyeballs look shiny? Right now they're not shiny, but all you need to do is just take a tiny little bit of vodka and brush it on the eyeball, or you can just take a tiny little bit of water and brush it on the eyeball, and that makes it very shiny as well. So I have a little tiny bottle of water here, and that's all I'm going to use to make my eyeball shiny. So I just need a little amount of water, and be careful that you don't get water on your finger that you're sculpting. I have a little tiny drop of water. Just pick it up with my brush, and the eyes really come to life when they're shiny. And this is such little water that it'll dry right away. But what's cool about gum paste is that once it gets wet, it'll stay shiny. Okay, so there are his eyes, super shiny. You can already see the little light bulb reflecting off of his eyes, but we're actually gonna add little white dots to his eyes. Okay, really cute. So that's pretty much it for the color. If you wanna go as far as, you know, adding a little bit of color to the tail, you can. I'm gonna actually do that. I'll just get a little bit of the brown that I had used for the eyebrows, and I'm just gonna dust the end of his tail where we had fur. Or hair, the part that's supposed to be hair. That'll look really cute. So there's his little tail, a little bit darker than the rest of his tail. And you really can't see his mouth that much because, you know, it's underneath, but if you want to, you can add a little bit of color to his mouth as well. So I'm just gonna take my red chalk again that I used earlier and take a fine brush that I know is gonna fit in there. And I'm just gonna brush a tiny little bit of red on his mouth, where I think it will be visible. I mean, nobody's gonna be looking underneath the elephant's trunk, but just in case. Okay. Alrighty. Alright guys, so to do the little dots on the eyes, we're going to take our white gel food coloring. Okay. I like to use Americolor, and all you have to do is just shake it and make sure you get a little bit of color inside the cap. You're going to take your little pin, okay, that has the flat head on the top, and then it has a somewhat pointy end on the other side. And all you're gonna do is just take your pen and you're gonna just dip it in, not all the way in, just enough to get some color, to pick up some color on the tip, okay? So you just take your pen, dip it in the color. That's about all you wanna get right there, okay? And then you're going to place a white dot wherever you'd like on the eye. I always like to do it on the top right. Okay, so there's my first dot. And then dip it in your color again and place another white dot in the same exact spot on the other eye, top right. Okay, so there's the two little white dots. Hopefully you can see that. And now we're gonna place a tiny little white dot using the, I'm just cleaning my little pin here. That way you don't get it dirty. We're gonna now use the pointy end, okay? And we're gonna place a little white dot slightly to the right and below the white dot on both eyes. So just take the tip of your pen, dip it in your paint, okay? And just a tiny little white dot. Right there, dip it again if you have to. And right about there. Okay. So that looks pretty cute. Alright guys, so that is our completed little elephant. I hope you like him, and I hope you have a lot of fun sculpting him. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, if there was anything you guys didn't understand. And I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves and would love to see your little elephants when they are completed. Please join me on my Facebook page and look forward to talking to all of you. Thank you guys. Take care. Bye-bye.